Landcare is about healthy landscapes and sustainable communities.
It creates partnerships between the community, government and organisations.
And its people work hard to improve their landscapes, lifestyles and livelihoods.
Landcare. Do you know what the word means?
I presume it means you're caring for the land.
Landcare, well, it's a community-run event, mostly done by landholders, I would imagine, that go and plant trees along the highways and look after the environment.
Well, from what I can gather, they're growing trees to bring the land back to what it should be, I suppose.
Well, I presume it's for caring for land.
An organisation that works on conserving the environment and stuff. I know what the sign looks like.
Yeah, I think I've seen it on landline, something to do with that in the landline. And that planting trees out and stuff.
It's to do with a whole lot of people that get together to make a conscious effort to improve the environment that they particularly live in.
It's about utilising the land but looking after it at the same time and make sure we're maintaining it in order to keep it going for the future.
So, do you think if you were a farmer it would be a good idea to be joining Landcare?
Yep.
Why do you think it would be a good idea?
Because then we can save the land and clean it, keep it healthy, keep all the animals alive.
I think everybody owns Landcare. I don't think just farmers own Landcare. I think everybody owns Landcare.
I think everyone in the community is involved. My parents used to be in it, I think, and yeah.
People that care about where they live. No, I would imagine there'd be a fair cross-section of everybody, and it should be. I mean, we all live on the land.
The community. Anyone and everyone who wants to be involved in it.
Landcare is for the benefit of the country, I think, and the community.
I think Landcare is for anyone. Landcare, is for everyone. Landcare gives local communities an interest to pursue an interest in anything related to land management, whether it be private land or public land.
The community does, I believe. Yeah, obviously that's funded by the government in a lot of ways with the Landcare employees, but our community drives it 100%.
This year marks the 20th anniversary of Landcare. From its beginnings in Victoria, it's grown into a national and international movement. These days, most of us are aware of the importance of caring for the land. To the Aboriginal people, caring for the land was a natural part of their lifestyle for many thousands of years.
My name's Albert Mullett. I'm one of the descendants of the original people of this area. Of the 5 clan groups of the Gunai people, I belong to the Tungalung people, which were the lake people, from Lake Entrance right through to Loch Sport. That was my ancestors' country and water system they looked after. In our area, Gunai people, there would be numbers between 4,500 to 5,000 that lived in those 5 clans in this area. Well, Mother Earth is the land, right? It's our mother. You cannot abuse your mother. If you're going to rate the land for development, well, that's what you're doing. In today's world and society, and people are becoming more aware that constantly that environmental issues are very important and the landscape is. I think the farmers are starting to realise the importance of the land, and it's got to be, it talks to you, you have to look after it.
For the early pioneers, this was a strange and alien landscape, vastly different from Europe. Nonetheless, they adopted the farming practices they knew from back home. New areas were rapidly cleared and settled, and their grazing animals soon roamed across most of the district. Introduced animals such as foxes and rabbits soon flourished in this new land, and the environmental impact was profound.
It's very interesting now in Landcare. We're very concerned about planting trees, as many as we can often. In the early days, of course, each landholder was responsible to clear his land, and inspectors would come around every year, and you had to have ring-barked a certain number of trees and completed a certain amount of fencing before you could maintain the lease, I guess it was, on your land. And so, yeah, we've come from an era of chopping down every single tree we could find to trying to replace them as desperately as we can.
I suppose our fathers were all paid to clear the land, where now we're paid to plant trees on it.
To look at the place, well, when my father started here, he spent most of his time knocking the trees down.
I suppose it's interesting, and I guess a lot of land was selected up, and because of this policy, a lot of land that should never have been cleared was cleared, and then of course, because that effort had been put in, people struggled on to try and make it work.
Us kids, we used to have rabbit traps and catch rabbits and sell the skins and make a few bob. Skin buyers used to come round, and because there was a lot of rabbit trappers in the area, right out in the bush everywhere, and because it's fairly high country, they were very good quality skins, and the skin buyers used to come round and pay top money for them. In fact, at one stage, that's only for about 1 year, they were paying £1 a pound for rabbit skins, and really good rabbit skins go 4 to the pound, so it was pretty good money.
They started to show up in 1913, of course. I know that from what I've told, or my dad's diaries and those sorts of things.
And there, from 51 onwards, all we did was chase rabbits for many years. And, erosion, oh, it was everywhere. But rabbits was a big thing. Oh, look, it was hopeless. A hopeless job with the rabbits. Absolutely hopeless. And bulldozers had only just started to come in to dig them out. Jim Cummins at Ensay came back from the war and brought a bulldozer back. That was the first time a bulldozer had been used to dig out a rabbit.
But I can remember, before I went away to school, rabbits were a big problem here, and I think it was about that time that Mixo came into the area, or came into Australia, and that made a big difference, of course.
As we know, the East Gippsland region can be a place of extremes. On top of overcoming the impact of earlier settlement, this community has faced many environmental, economic and social challenges.
The last 10 years we've had the lot. Not all of us have had the whole lot, but some have. Some have.
The Yonis was an issue that impacted upon the viability of farmers.
With the program they had of test and slaughter, a large percentage of the sheep went out of Ensay, and with that went the shearers and the shed hands and our casual workforce. So from that point of view, it's had a very serious effect.
I guess fire is one of the crucial elements of native vegetation that we don't really fully come to grips with and understand. And we hadn't fully until we experienced 2003, the fires.
And for instance here, although we weren't directly threatened by the fire, it was for over a month you'd have been lucky to see 50 metres. The smoke was so dense, and you wouldn't have known where the fires were, and that had a huge effect on people.
How'd they affect us? Well, they took all the sheds here and burnt all the fences, burnt all the pasture, left us pretty depressed. And there.
We lost 2 houses, wool shed, yards, hay. I think it was 400 by round bales.
As far as the farm's concerned, the 2003 fires have probably set us back 5-7 years.
And I think if you go back prior to the 2003 fires, we had the 1998 drought flood scenario.
Well, we've all suffered the droughts that we've had. Some areas have been more drought-stricken than others, but it's all been drought-stricken to some degree. And then we've had, just recently, we've had the locust plague.
East Gippsland's history and climatic extremes have shaped who we are today. The impact of past land use has impinged on productivity, long-term sustainability and community resilience. With the emergence of Landcare, a renewed spirit of community cooperation was forged, creating a vision for the future.
I think it was quite exciting initially because it was probably the first time that something had been offered to farmers.
Because Landcare was focusing on environmental management, that was new to a lot of us, and none of us knew the answers.
Yeah, we had I think about 13 people come on board immediately, and they then were able to coordinate things. You get heavy machinery out to do erosion work. It's pointless paying people just to come to your property. You can share some of the travel costs. So that's the sort of thing that was going on, and that continues today.
It's interesting, I was reading, what was it? Something about, it was in the Weekly Times a couple of weeks ago, a month or two ago. I was talking about Landcare numbers, and the numbers are dropping across the state of Victoria. And I mean, that would, East Gippsland wouldn't fit into that trend at all. I think you'd find that it's just the opposite.
There's a bit in the Weekly Times that Landcare is actually sort of going downhill a bit, but maybe it is in some areas. But it certainly isn't here. And I think it's just going to keep going.
Nearly 10 years ago, there were 14 groups in East Gippsland. There are now 35.
The community aspect of Landcare, to my mind, or my way of thinking, is the most important thing. You won't have Landcare if you don't have people.
Oh, it's brilliant to actually get all of us farmers who all operate individually together. We get talking about issues that are affecting us all at the same time. And it provides us a good base to actually get together and do this, rather than running into one neighbour down the road and not being able to see 3 or 4 other neighbours at the same time. As we are private farmers, we don't get much time to run around and see people. So to have an organisation that brings us together to talk about issues that we need to talk about, it's really good for us.
Well, one of the reasons why I joined Landcare when I first arrived in Cannon River was to get to know the community and meet people and things like that. So certainly there's that social aspect as well.
I think it's brought the community probably closer together because they realise that we all have similar issues. We can't afford to destroy our environment. And if we can get something out of it to better our own place and better the environment, well, that's why I think we're all in it, to try and achieve something.
Everyone's aware of the fact that in certain farming communities that there are now less people than there were, so there's less of a community. So the local CFA, Fire Brigade, Landcare is very, very important from the community aspect. I mean, I chair the local Toms Creek Landcare group, for example. We have a meeting every couple of months in the local hotel, and we enjoy a nice feed and a bit of a chat and a casual approach to our activities, and at the end of the day we've achieved quite a lot in the Toms Creek Landcare group.
What's in it for me? I think mainly just the social contact and just feel, well, part of the community, and fairly strong community groups in this area, and the people have had to rely on their own resources in a lot of times, so yeah, there's a good feeling of community.
I've learned a lot through Landcare about different ways of looking after the land, different ways of treating the ground, different soils, different bugs and beetles and birds and wildlife and everything.
Having informal days so they're not threatened, having instruction days.
We managed to do a lot of revegetation, and a lot of us actually started growing our own tube stock from local seed, Indigenous species that we collected around, and actually at the same time we were learning a lot too, because not many of us knew much about local species or how to collect seed or how to propagate, and that was all part of it.
I think one of the important things that Landcare's done for us is bring in people who know more than we do, and experts in certain fields, so that when you want to know about dung beetles or fox baiting or whatever it might be, they can say, well, we can bring somebody in and talk.
As a group, we have more weight behind us. As a group, we get together and there's a lot more people to push forward with ideas. One person can make a small difference, but a group can make a larger difference, and we've been able to achieve that.
Getting information from other organisations. It's a nice little step for us into getting more technical support that often on farm we just don't seem to get, or not as easily anyway.
This year, when I come home with all these trees from the Landcare group. In comes Mario on his bike and says, "Geez, you're buying all them trees?" I said, "Well, actually I'm not buying them, Mario." I said, "This year the Landcare group's been giving them out to their members." But I said, as you know, it only costs $10 or $15 to join. I said, you get all these trees for nothing. I said, not only that, I said, this year they've given the guards and the bamboo stakes to hold the guards on. So $20 outlay, you're in with the DPI, the DNRE, the CMA, the Landcare, and the whole system's working.
There's no doubt it'd be unanimous. There's not one member of our group that wouldn't say, without a paid facilitator, someone like Penny, or we had Lucy Clausen before that, and Coral Love before that, I think. Without that, it would be very difficult. That person is a great resource of tapping into funding, training, resourcing. It's absolutely critical.
It was a different management phase up until a couple of years ago, and it was starting to get pretty disappointing. It didn't seem to work, and I was ready to chuck it in. I can tell you I'd had enough. Didn't seem to be working. We've got a great coordinator down there for us, and good staff who support us. Yeah, that's cheered me up a fair bit, and I'm a lot more encouraged now to keep going.
I mean, people talking about, and I suppose down near Stratford going down towards Rosedale, I see a couple of erosion areas there where I think Landcare have revegetated it and fenced it all. I'm saying, wow, that's great.
The change, it probably is bringing the community back together. The change in the landscape, there's probably a lot of people who were sitting on the fence and weren't going to put their hands up with problems, is now starting to do something about it.
I just say when I look out, when I drive along the roads, I just see improved pastures, and I notice those. I just think, yeah, this whole area looks a lot better than it did 10, 15 years ago.
I suppose that's the obvious one of just everybody putting in a lot more trees. For the general red gum plains around here, it would have to be the reforestation of shelter belts and small patches of agroforestry. I think was the obvious, one.
It has moved on a bit. Like, we started off with lots of revegetation, and I think we've sort of moved on from there a bit.
The general community awareness at an average level, there's extremes in the awareness, but at the average community level, I think Landcare has done a fantastic job.
Farmers, good farmers in particular, are environmentalists. They're greenies in their own right, and they love it. They don't mind people saying that now. They're not radical people at all. They're just people getting about their normal day-to-day life. It's just that they've incorporated a lot of the ideas that people saw perhaps 20 years ago as being radical. It's not difficult for me to show you areas that look absolutely brilliant, and to see them even only 3 or 4 years ago, they look pretty ordinary.
As we've seen and heard, Landcare has established a strong foundation over the last 20 years. Today it holds a respected place within the East Gippsland community. But what must Landcare consider if it's to remain relevant into the future?
I think the future will still have diversity of programs, but I think that I'd like to see it anyway be, maybe that's a personal bent of what I think it should be, but I think there's quite a few members in our group that think that sustainable agriculture, the production side of it, needs to be a bit more of a focus. And if you look at some of our objectives of where we want to go, we just had a 5-year plan, so we worked on that. And it was a really healthy, interesting couple of evenings. And there were quite a few programs or streams of interest that were focused on, the production side of it.
Well, there's a saying, and it's not mine, but it's a very true one, that you have to be in the black to be green.
I think Landcare has got to put a bit more back into agriculture, to sustainable agriculture, and make the greater community, the wider community, think that it's not all about planting trees.
I think it does need to go down a track where, perhaps it's more production driven, in the future, because you know, everyone's got to get more efficient, I suppose, and it needs to help. You know, it needs to help the production along as well.
We can't sort of just rest on your laurels and assume that it's going to just go on and continue to be a useful vehicle in our community. I think it needs you know, fairly constant renewal. I think it needs to be constantly challenging itself to and asking the question, well, you know, are we still relevant?
Our Landcare is, for us, our directional unit to get the people involved in the committee and the group to go forth and do things within Landcare. So it's up to our members to really work harder and get involved in the issues that we think are important to our Landcare group.
Well, there is a future for Landcare, and we do need it, because Landcare, if it's nothing else, it gets farmers or like-minded people together to discuss issues for the good of the land, and that's important. We can battle along on our own and not be doing nearly as much as we might if we were only to go out and learn from other people. So from that point of view, there is a future for Landcare. Yeah, there's a future for farming, there's certainly a future for Landcare, if it's properly funded and properly managed and appreciated.
Educating people within the Landcare group itself, but also the kids, trying to get them involved, because I mean, they're the future, they're going to be our next Landcare members.
Junior Landcare in schools is a great plus, because that brings the message home from school and they start asking mum and dad a few questions, and we're starting to get the message across.
And the kids saying, look, you know, this the environment, we've all got to respect it and look after it.
What happens to poison? You were a bit concerned about the animals getting poisoned, weren't you?
Yes, the animals can get poisoned, then they can get really sick and die. Fire is, well, it's a bit like a bonfire.
Okay. Well, this is getting to be a bigger problem than I thought. Right, so I was asking you before, do you come from a farm? Do you live on a farm?
Yes.
What do you have on your farm?
We have chickens.
Okay.
I mean, chooks.
Oh, yeah.
One horse, a cat. We used to have 3 dogs, except my dog Emma ran away, and one of the dogs, well, it was very sick and it was going to die, so we just shot it.
Oh, okay. So you obviously live on a farm. That's good.
Well, you need to take care of farms, because then it keeps us alive. If you grow seeds and you make sure that there is enough soil to make the trees grow to make us survive.
Landcare has come a long way in 20 years.
These stories demonstrate that East Gippsland Landcare
continues to be a strong and vibrant community movement.
It is vital to the enhancement of the long-term productivity and viability of our natural resources.
It's the people within Landcare who make a difference,
as they work hard to improve the landscape
for those who inherit it in the future.
Our hearts are in the land and our future is in our hands.
Yeah, I'd just like to express my gratitude to everyone that's been involved in Landcare over the last 20 years. There's been some really great endeavours from individuals and groups and other organisations to make Landcare and East Gippsland a real success.
If I'm a farmer, when I grow up, I'll have to put trees in before I can water before the rain comes.
What did you think about the lesson that we had then? What did you learn?
Well, I learned quite a lot.
Yeah?
This was my favourite bit, when we got to watch how you tip the water.
Yeah. What was I trying to show you when I was tipping water on? What was that meant to look like? Do you remember?
It was meant to look like the water, with the dirty water was going into the river.
But what was the problem that the farmer might have if he lives near a river, for instance?
They didn't want the dirty water going into the nice clean sea.
Olivia, what was that story all about? What do you remember about that story that we just had? What did we learn about it? Take your time, it's fine.
We've got to look after the land.
Righto, and what's the name of the group that looks after people's land?
Landcare.
Landcare, that's right. What was the problem that happened when it rained too much? Do you remember what happened when it rained too much?
Yeah, it went into the river.
And is that a good thing or not a good thing?
It's a bad thing.
Why is that a bad thing?
Because would you like to drink water that's bad?
Yeah, no, that would be good, wouldn't it?
I'd love to say well done and keep at it. You know, this is something that's making a difference, and it's making a difference across Australia and in East Gippsland as well. And I know there are a huge amount of dedicated people involved in Landcare, so keep on going with it because it is well worth it.